Hey, thanks for joining us on another episode of Construction Tech Talk. This is Iron Pros Technology editor Charles Rathman, and this is what we call one of our We Talk to Smart People episodes. And we call them that because we talk to the smartest people I can find on the topic of construction technology, which is a broad discipline. And today we are doing the best that we can possibly do with Hugh Seaton. Hugh, why don't you pop in here and give folks a rundown of all the different things you do in life as we know it.
Hey, thanks for having me again. So I've a couple things. I've got a podcast of my own called Constructed Futures, where I get to talk to also some smart folks. Wrote a book a couple years ago, the Construction Technology Handbook, and have been working with CSI for a number of years on their crosswalk product as well as some other things. And finally, I've launched a business called The Link, which is focused on making construction specifications consumable for the field, which we're super excited about. So thanks again for having me on.
And that book kind of looms large in my imagination. I'd been working in enterprise technology with a heavy focus on project-centric industries, including construction, for a long time. But when I suddenly had to focus 100% more on building and other forms of construction, I hunted it down. I downloaded it on my Kindle. I read it. And if you're in enterprise technology, you read some things that are like this, that are designed to really put on that secret decoder ring for people and help them understand what the heck is going on. We don't have much of that in construction. That's kind of one of the things we're focused on here at Iron Pros. But, when it came to your book, what kind of struck me is, how it really helped folks get their heads around the fact, yes, you can have something like lean improvements and increased efficiency in construction, and technology can be a part of that. From like the front page standpoint, what types of insights do you think really kind of stick around and have lasting value for them?
Yeah, I wrote the book for people as almost a primer on what technology is. So you may remember, especially some of the early chapters, I define all the words that I hear people using, and I'm not sure anyone ever stopped to tell them what it means. An example of that is API. So you hear that all the time. People throw it around like the word strategy, which people also never stop and define, right? So, an application programming interface is how two bits of software connect to each other. There's more to it than that, but that's not a bad start. I didn't do it in the book, but since then I've used the analogy. It's like a McDonald's drive-through window. You can go up to it and you can only get what it has, and you have to ask for it the right way, and you're going to get it in exactly the packaging that McDonald's gives it to you in. That's kind of what an API is. So I think the book did a lot of that. The book took the time and explained what things are from the ground up. We ended up in some fun places talking about AI and some other things, but I wanted to make sure that everyone who read it would say, all right, look, I may or may not like the software someone's talking to me about, but I'm not going to get lost in the terminology. I'm going to know what they mean. At least I'll know what the word means, even if not the concept. So for me, I think that's a bit of an evergreen idea, is that as we throw these words around like machine learning and so on, what does that even mean? And what's the implications of something being machine learning and deep learning versus, just normal software? So that, to me, I don't know that those are insights so much as really what the product or what the book, was trying to get done. I don't know. In terms of insights, the world has moved on a little bit. You and I have talked a little bit about interoperability, for example. That's a big difference across the last couple of years. You're finding some areas like applied AI is more, especially in machine vision, has moved forward dramatically in that time. Some other things are kind of where they are. SaaS is still what it is. People are still figuring it out. People are still figuring out how to drive adoption inside of construction teams. I think the app fatigue, every year, everyone thinks that's a new realization. And I've been hearing it 3 years in a row. So I think that's here to stay. That said, the other thing I've seen is construction innovation teams have absolutely matured in the time since I wrote the first book. So when I was originally doing interviews with folks, I talked to a couple of innovation teams, and all of them were a little early. They were figuring some things out. They were figuring out how to deploy money. They were figuring out how to deal with the onslaught of new ideas and new products. And I think a lot of them have gotten much better at managing it, at adding value back to the field, at listening to the field and integrating the field and so on. So I think the industry continues to get better at this. Never as fast as you want, but if you move too fast, you break things, and you can't break things in construction because things fall down.
And your comments about more integration with the field, I think, is one thing that we're seeing here, significantly. We're, not to spill the beans, but this podcast will probably be out by the time our research study is published. But we've done some primary research on what folks are investing in and budgeting for, particularly when it comes to technologies used in the field or on equipment. And things like field productivity software, which would be like your Rockins or your Signars, uh, are right up there because now, yes, you can extend an enterprise technology into the guy with the boots in the mud and capture information on his productivity level, on the production of equipment. There's a lot more real-time connection here. What are some of the things that you think are really driving that type of adoption?
A couple of things. I think that just the more you hear about things, the more comfortable you become with them. And I think that this is adoption everywhere. And in every industry there's a reason why it happens over time. Is there people who are comfortable with only seeing a few folks do something? There are others that need to see more of it around them before they're comfortable. And I think that's what's happening is you're hearing it more and more. You always hear people talk about consumer technology. Everyone's got a supercomputer in their back pocket. That's been around for a while. I'm not sure that's as big a driver as it may have been a while ago. I really just think that the quality of solutions, especially the degree to which the producers of those solutions are listening more than maybe was true before. I think there was a wave maybe a decade ago where financial software tried to extend into the field and they didn't listen very much to the field. So there was a bit of a, come on, I have to type more buttons when I'm out in the sun or whatever. I think that there's a lot more listening to the field than there was. The other thing that really is different is construction companies themselves are becoming more and more innovative and are internally looking at building their own things and becoming more and more sophisticated. So this is just what industries do. There's a pressure to change and it doesn't happen right away. It filters through. There's a couple companies that are often out front. There's a bunch of others that are behind them and then even more that are behind them. So you're just seeing this is what adoption looks like. This is what digital transformation looks like. It's messy. It's driven by good products. It's driven by things just being around for a while. So it doesn't sound like it's going to go away, but also the underlying quality and the underlying stability of these solutions is just dramatically better than it maybe was before.
Well, you and I are obviously following a lot of the different products that are coming to market in the last couple of years. The number of them that we've seen, a lot of the companies that I'm talking to here are founded 2-3 years ago, maybe even less. And what that means, they're coming out as native cloud solutions, often on a multi-tenant architecture or something like HCSS. It just has a really cool single tenancy, but it's designed to be connected with from the field. It's not like you've got to punch through a firewall or go through a bunch of other steps. Do you think that the importance of the cloud is, something that's really driving a lot of this development?
I think the cloud is part of the firmament now. It's not even, I don't think people think about it, to be really honest. I think we're so far past on-prem that I don't think it's a question. I mean, there's still some solutions that have an on-prem, and there are reasons for that sometimes. From a security standpoint, you may want to do that. But the reality is most people don't have that much hardware on site anyway. So I think the cloud makes most of what we do even possible. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you see, and I'll just kind of add this little bit out because normally if someone's on a roll and I start to say something, we'll just shut up. But one thing I've seen quite a bit is solutions that are perhaps either on premise or maybe just designed for on premise but hosted that are just not quite as modern and don't have the AP first approach that a more modern software will. Do you think that that's going to be one thing that's going to push people to adopt different technologies, either from the general ledger on out, or plugging cloud native applications into something that might be a little bit more mature.
I think you put your finger on something when you mentioned General Ledger. There's a special place people hold their accounting software and where their numbers are. I'll give you a great example. My time in CSI, the only time I really ever heard about the older version of master format really ever was when people still had it in their cost codes. So I think there's a special, when you talk about being on-prem, the only time I generally would hear about that, even now or even years ago, is when it was an accounting software. You just don't hear it that much when it comes to other things. The power of the cloud in terms of updatability and change and just 100 other things that makes the cloud more powerful, you just don't hear it that much. I mean, I'm sure there are legacy systems that are sitting in contractors, because of course there are, but you just don't hear that talked about a lot. What you usually hear is they're constantly weighing the cost benefit of migrating. And unfortunately, migrating any system you've been using for any amount of time, humans have to sit there and do a lot of legwork, and then all of a sudden you're discovering things and so on. It's just it usually is more expensive than you think it is.
Yeah, yeah. And what that means is that as the industry continues to evolve, you could have quite a bit to write about if you decide to do a second edition, or a sequel.
That's right. That's right. Actually, there is another book coming. It's still not done yet, so who knows when it'll come out, but it'll be about data and construction, because I think there's a lot for us to be considering when it comes to data. So software is really what the first book was about. I mean, I touched on some other things, but the next vista for us is really understanding the use of data, how you capture it, what you can do with it. Things like the cloud become quite important there, because where are you putting it, and where is it resident, and how's it moving, and what's security, and so on. So data and construction is coming.
Well, definitely let me know when that's going to hit so I can block off some time in my calendar, like I do with every single James Lee Burke novel. But yeah, we'll leave this here. If you'd like to learn more about these topics, keep on coming back to ironpros.com and For Construction Pros. I highly recommend Hugh's content as well, his podcast. And we'll look forward to seeing you back here next time on Construction Tech Talk.
Thanks for having me.